Reboot It!
Hey everyone, I'm Ron Swallow, and welcome back to Reboot Rewind, the official after show for Reboot It. Today, talking about the first Reboot It episode in 4 years, Star Wars Episode 3, Star Wars Episode 3, Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, specifically only Revenge of the Sith. So here's the history about it. Let's talk about how this one came about. This episode is the first episode back after a 4-year absence. Did you guys feel any pressure or anxiety putting this out there?
I
This
think
was
we
the. Oh, go ahead.
no,
You first.
I think we had set our expectations reasonably low. You know, we had just for a little behind the scenes, since this is a rewind, we had obviously talked about quite a bit coming back and starting up new episodes. And I think we were all pretty much agreed, like, hey, let's not put too much pressure on ourselves. Like, let's take it, let's take it slow. Let's see how it feels. And for my part, I took that seriously. So that's the energy I brought into it. I don't know about you guys.
This was the first one that we put out, but it was the third one that we had recorded. So I think the reason why this one is so good is because, at least for me, it took me a couple episodes to remember how to be Billy Business on this show. So like I was the one that was editing, and I was telling Ed this is very bizarre. I was the one editing these shows, and we recorded the first one, which was Godfather was the first one we recorded. And I was like, I don't remember how to edit this show. So I went back and I watched all of our old episodes. I hadn't touched them in years, and like I became a fan of our show, and I disassociated myself with like it wasn't me that was on the show, it was this Billy Business. But the problem with that is when we started recording again, I was trying to do like, how do I be that guy? And I was like doing an imitation of myself. Like it's really very noticeable on Ghostwriter, where I'm just like, I don't know what I'm doing. So I feel like Revenge of the Sith, by that point, I was just like, okay, just start over, just start fresh. Whatever you end up bringing to the table, that's who you are now. So that's why I feel like this one clicked maybe better than some of the other first couple ones.
Well, and I think Billy, like the other thing is we've talked off air plenty of times about little problems we have with Revenge of the Sith. Like this, like it's one of my favorites of the prequels, and still there's like some real problems with it. Obviously, the one we brought up was, Anakin murking children and then being redeemable somehow. And I think that's also kind of led us to like, well, what if we did just one movie? So and
we knew we wanted to launch. We knew we wanted to launch with like a big event. It's like, how do we come back 4 years later and make it worthwhile? And then somehow the timing line, it's like, well, if we do this, we can align with May the 4th, and we're right there. So that's why this one came out then. And then just we'd never tried doing just like, well, so that to me was the pressure was off, because it's like sometimes the first half hour is just us trying to figure out what's the world we have to invent, and we didn't have to do that this time. It's like you knew what came before, you knew what came after, you just had to fill in this part. So it wasn't like we had like a whole world to build. So that also took a lot of pressure off, for me at least.
Yeah, how about you, Ed?
I agree with Billy that that's part of what made it an actual event. It wasn't just the fact that it was Star Wars. It was the fact that we had to, insert something into, insert a car onto a moving train, and that part was exciting for me, because I felt as though, like, especially when the producer notes started coming in and we had to start really tying it to like way later movies and stuff like that. I was like, wow, I felt like it was fun. Like we had a fair amount of fun in the other episodes, but like this one was actual like fun all the way throughout.
Yeah, that's
Bill?
interesting. Yeah, I was gonna say I feel like for the first couple episodes, and I think in this one as well, was having a hard time going back to the producer voice and like hitting us with some of those crazy out there notes. And like this one, I think I don't even remember what all of them were, but I remember piling on like different producer notes in this one. And I feel like I was sort of groping around in the dark with that because I just, between not doing the show for a few years and us now working for Zaslav, and so inventing a brand new character, I had literally and figuratively not really found that voice yet.
It was, but to me, that was one of the funniest parts when you didn't say. So Grogu was one of them, but you either couldn't remember or mispronounced. You're like, I don't give a shit. The baby, put a fucking baby in there. Like that to me was like, oh, there it is. Now we're having fun again. You know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was. Yeah, I mean, I will say it was fun to rediscover the rhythms of the show in less of a pressure cooker atmosphere. Because certainly speaking for myself, like the last time that we had properly done this show, my personal life was in a tailspin, and we were still in the middle of the pandemic on top of everything else. So the show ended up becoming a little bit of a grind, and I don't think that necessarily shows up when you go back and watch like those season 3 and 4 episodes, but it really was like this sort of crushing thing that we were, I don't know, I felt a little bit like we were slogging through by the end of it. And just to echo what Ed said, like this one, for whatever reason, felt very kind of light and fun, like we were just throwing the ball around, like it was cool in that way.
Yeah, I 100% agree as far as this specific episode goes. And I think it was the best choice for us to open with, not just because of the May 4th, but just because, again, I think it was good for everyone to see that we had that we could have a good time doing this. Like just I feel like this episode definitely was like, look at these four coming up with fun ideas, working off of each other. Because I feel like this was one of those episodes. I mean, all the episodes we bounce off each other pretty well, but like this one really felt like we really bounced off each other's ideas pretty well.
I remember looking at the comments afterwards, and they were just like, you guys haven't lost a step. You guys are crushing it. And in my mind, I was just like, ooh, I hope they feel that way next week, because next week is the first one we actually recorded. So we'll see if the sleight of hand actually paid off or not.
On a different tip, though, I will say we're sort of keeping the momentum up from the last time we tackled Star Wars. We did a Star Wars episode all the way back as the finale of season 1, back when we were doing this in person. And I feel like that was both one of the best times that we had in terms of like our synergy, like all of our ideas sort of building on each other. I know that there was some heated discussion in that, but the final product I thought was really good. And this one, I think the same thing, we did a really good job of like all four of us contributing to what the final thing became.
By the way, heated back then in season 1 versus heated in like season 3 became like, you go back and watch that old Palpatine conversation, and it's like Ed and I are just jovially, just like, oh, you rascal. But I do think it's interesting that all four of us, maybe Ron and I probably have a closer sensibilities and taste of Star Wars, but just like for something that is so contentious when we talk about it, both times I feel like both of those episodes, this one and the other one, could potentially be on the Mount Rushmore of rebooted episodes. Like we for some reason, we all bring, maybe that's why we all bring different things into Star Wars, but the output is always so good.
Yeah.
I mean, when it comes down to it, it's a sci-fi space opera. And if you can incorporate a little bit of all that, and it's a fantasy as well. And that's like, all of us have pieces that match that. We all get those kind of hero's journey type of thing. And we also have opinions about the movies that are like hot takes and then not so hot takes and in between, and I think that we are great on coming together on that sort of thing because we all individually have like a unique perspective on that. And of course, that's what I think about us in general. By the way, subscribe.
Well, and the thing that I think contributes to the Star Wars episodes, before we get into like whatever we're going to get into, but I think the Star Wars episodes are as Bill likes to say, the apotheosis of creative people putting together their own headcanons. Because Billy has a distinct headcanon for Star Wars, Ron has a distinct headcanon for Star Wars, and Bill has a distinct headcanon for Star Wars as much as he wants to think about it. And I do too. I have my distinct headcanon, and my headcanon is pointed and wants to blast a bunch of crap about Star Wars. And in these episodes, you let me do as much of that as could be done without pissing everybody off. And I really appreciate that, guys. I mean, I really feel like you guys allowed me to do the tinkering on Star Wars that I've always wanted to do within reason. So thank you, 100%.
Well, that's because we love you, Ed.
Mm-hmm.
And also, who doesn't love an Ed rant?
One of the hallmarks of the show, really. I mean, when people say we're back to rare form, that's what they mean. Is the Ed rant.
Okay, so we hit on it a little bit earlier, but this episode was, different because it's the first time we ever rebooted one part of a whole thing. We hit it a little bit. Do you feel like that was actually freeing or more stressful? Like, was it like, what do you think? Was it did it make it harder to have to like think about all the stuff that already exists and then make it fit in? Or was it actually better to do it that way?
I will say I maybe was the least versed in. I was reading Wikipedia on Attack of the Clones just to make sure I had the plot points straight, because I don't think I've seen that movie since I was in high school, and my Disney Plus lapsed and I didn't renew it, so I wasn't able to rewatch ahead of the episode.
I do think like there was, one of the discussions that we had, and there's a comment about it, we'll get to it later, but it's just like the biggest thing was just like Star Wars has grown so exponentially, really since Disney Plus, but even before that it was almost just like it wasn't just Attack of the Clones and just A New Hope that you kind of had to look at. Like now you're adding Rogue One, now you're adding Rebels, now you're adding the Clone Wars, now you're adding all these things. And we did kind of have to cherry pick a little bit, like we're not invalidating a lot of these things or really any of these things, but we also can't acknowledge all of them at the same time. So if anything, like maybe the hardest part was just deciding what was relevant to this story and Anakin's story, as opposed to just making sure that it like slipped in perfectly.
Bill? Oh, you already said it. Ed.
Yeah, I concur with what everybody has said about this.
Okay, cool. Me, me, guys. Well, the new Ron is like, let's just whatever we do, let's just do it. I'm gonna have a good time. I'm gonna come up with ideas and see what happens. That's gonna be the new Ron, because I'm not trying to do another Twilight episode. For those of you who haven't seen all of our things, if you're new to the channel, go back and watch that Twilight episode where I throw a hissy fit about a book I don't even like. Like it's
I mean, Ron, to be fair, we've all thrown hissy fits. I feel like you're the least offensive in terms of hissy fit throwing.
Yeah,
you got Twilight and like maybe half of Knight Rider under your belt, and that's it. So
ooh, that rewind. Yeah. Oof, that rewind. Yeah.
That was
if anyone's gonna go back,
that was my hissy fit. That was definitely my hissy fit. But yeah, I really do think in regards to the whole Star Wars of it all, we try to add to the canon. We try to make it our own as much as we can while respecting what it is. But I think when we try to push it more towards what it is, I think that's where the magic happens. Like every time that we as a group, including myself, have pushed Anakin farther than the original creators have, or made his suffering more palpable, or more, we extended it in this. As we get into the pitch, we extended his suffering, we extended the timeline with Bill's great idea of just, we cannot just jam all this in this movie and have it not take the proper time. Things like that we add to it because we care about it. I think that's a major thing I wanted to say in this part. We do care about the shit, and that's why we're trying to make it better, not just different. We're trying to make it more itself rather than making it something different. I think that's what we mostly try to do.
I think that's a great way to sum it up. And your mileage may vary on that, but I do think the biggest complaints about the prequels have always been that they just kind of don't feel right. And like all of us here have acknowledged, like there's some great ideas. People say that all the time about the Star Wars prequels. There's great ideas. He's really playing with some interesting stuff, but it's just like the pace and the tone and the texture of it is just off. So yeah, I think to your point, like we're just trying to make it fit the mold that we all intrinsically know Star Wars should be.
Yeah, 100%. So then also we introduced, I guess we can call him the big bad, right? To the show, David Zaslav. Zaslav. And let me say this, by the way, for if you're a new listener and this is your first reboot rewind, and this is you're watching the first season, or and just kind of checking out our show, we've had a lot of producers who come on and give us terrible ideas. Our first one. And the big daddy of them all was John Peters, made famous for wanting to put a mechanical spider in the Superman movie that never happened. So how did we decide to go with Zaslav, and what did you do to make him different from John Peters?
I mean, that was a Billy idea. Billy was just like, it has to be Zaslav, right? Like if we're gonna do a new season, it has to be Zaslav.
I mean, this was coming right around. I mean, afterwards, but like everyone was still pissed about him canceling Batgirl and the Looney Tunes stuff. It just seemed like for a while there, every day he was doing something new to piss someone off, and I was just like, look, I think I even says like, guys, I don't remember like our internal lore and kayfabe of our show got so convoluted and complicated. It's like, I don't know where we left off. Let's just pretend. Let's just start over. And this is where we work now. We work at Warner Brothers with Zaslav. And even as we were filming this season, like this guy's just giving us gold in real life in the news, like on a weekly basis.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. When the news came out that the board had voted to cut his salary, I was dying laughing. I was like, you gotta be kidding me. Like this is canon to the show now.
And then like even like we haven't recorded yet, but it's just like that whole merger now has been completely undone. Now Warner Brothers is back to Warner Brothers Discovery. We're just like, how is this possible? How is this guy earning more money than the four of us combined will ever see in our lifetime? Like, that's insane.
Unreal. It's unreal.
He made a couple of good reality shows. He deserves that money, Billy.
So crazy.
Speaking of which, I'm sure if you're a listener of the Greatest Pod, this is old news to you. But since we don't have all crossover audience, I will just share. My original, my first job in producing, at least, was reality TV, and I did that for almost 10 years. And like Zaslav had a terrible reputation going back to like 2010. I mean, like people knew this guy was kind of out of his mind. And even funnier, like I remember talking to people when he took over Warner Brothers. I think Ed and Ron, like we had a whole episode about this at one point on the Greatest Pod. He is the guy that turned Discovery Channel into Shark Week, that turned TLC into My 600-Pound Life, that turned Animal Planet into Finding Bigfoot, that turned the Science Channel into alien shows. Like, he's the guy. And granted, all their ratings went up when he did that, so he was making the company a lot of money. But in terms of like pure taste and impact on the greater culture, you could not have a more villainous guy in that CEO role. I mean, it's almost comical.
Yeah.
By
like
the way,
the perpetrator. Yeah.
I was just gonna say, if you track the voice of Zaslav from this episode to the last one, it is varying degrees of John Peters and Peter Griffin from Family Guy kind of rolled, and then it evolves more to Peter Griffin. But you can tell when we've taken a week off or a break, because that next episode, if it sounds more John Peters, it's because Bill forgot what he did last time, and it goes more towards that.
I do think I've kind of settled on a very Peter Griffin-esque voice for him, which
I think that's perfect.
It's semi-accurate because he does have like kind of an arch New England voice, and he does like his S's get caught in his cheeks a little bit because he's got those big ass teeth. But like, it's not. I don't think it's as much of a masterpiece as the John Peters impression was.
But he's also goofier. You've made him goofier than Peters. Like
Peters
the Mission Impossible thing just killed me. He's like, it was me, David Zaslav, this whole time. That is maybe my favorite Reboot It moment, like ever.
We'll get there.
Yeah, we'll talk about that as a rewind at some point for sure. Okay, well, let's take a look at the picks real quick. We got a sweet clip to look at.
We're opening with the last battle of the Clone Wars, getting that shit out of the way early. We're establishing that the Jedi do not interfere in the status quo. Anakin Skywalker wants to. He's going to try to free the slaves, and both the Jedi and the Stormtroopers are going to be like, whoa, buddy, slow your roll, to the point where the Jedi are even like, we don't get involved in politics. You're expunged. Go live with your illegal wife and have a nice life, but you're no longer a Jedi. We boop, boop, boop. Pop ourselves forward. Now we are years later. Both Anakin and Amidala are living not separate lives, but both secret lives, which is straining their relationship as they're both ping-ponging across the galaxy. When Amidala is with the Senate, Anakin's off doing his own thing, which we eventually reveal is he's liberating planets, but in Palpatine's mind, he's essentially just clearing the way for the Stormtroopers to move in and bring them into the Empire. They can script the people into the Stormtrooper army, and if they don't want to join, they're going to turn them into lab rats. Meanwhile, Amidala is working with some of the Jedi, like Mace Windu, trying to figure out why is it that Palpatine is still in power and the rule of the galaxy is not reverted to the Republic. At some point, she goes to try to recruit Mandalorians, probably after her encounter with Daisy Ridley, where she learns all the nasty shit that's going on as the Empire tightens its grip. But she goes to try to recruit Mandalorians to become part of the counterinsurgency. She ends up being chased by the Mandalorians and has to fight them off, but is ultimately saved by Anakin, who is revealed to be planet hopping, and we see him every time we check in with him. He's getting more and more messed up, becoming more and more Vader. There's almost a four-way, see if I can keep this straight in my head, almost a four-way conflict that develops through the middle of the movie where Anakin is doing his own thing at the behest of Palpatine. He thinks he's liberating worlds, but as the Empire is taking control, they're consolidating power. The Jedi are both looking into who is this person that's murdering Jedi on these distant worlds, clearing the way for the clampdown. And then the Jedi are also working with Amidala, trying to figure out if they should or should not overthrow Palpatine. At the end of the day, it's all too late. Palpatine makes his final move to kill all the Jedi at the Jedi Temple. Anakin is betrayed by Padme, who sabotages the Bacta tank, flees their home, tries to go save kids. Meanwhile, some of the last remaining senior Jedis show up to confront Anakin. We get a big Frodo Vader versus Mace Windu, Yoda, and Obi-Wan fight. We get Padme rescuing Jedi children just in time, only to be intercepted by Sheev himself, who force blasts her to oblivion. And at the end of the movie, we find out that her pregnancy, which we had seen develop, and then she had confessed to Anakin that she got rid of the children, further driving a rift between them. It was all a ruse. She gave birth to twins, and she put them in hiding. And we end the movie on the final conflict between Yoda and Obi-Wan, where Yoda tells Obi-Wan, we need to hide, we need to go away, we need to wait this out. And Obi-Wan says, no, screw you, we need to join the revolution. That was our problem in the first place. We didn't step up when we had the chance. Whew! I think that's everything. That is the reboot. We're saying that because we're dealing with these time jumps, we can actually use most of the same original actors and let them play their age, let them play it more naturalistic. We are going to use as our director, help me out, guys, who am I forgetting? Who do we say?
Coogler.
Ryan Coogler, which is a wonderful choice. kind of dropping somewhere between the tone of Andor and a big space opera, more in the style of the original prequels. I think he could do a great job. And we have roles per David Zaslav for not just one, but many Mandalorians, a Grogu teen Yoda, and Daisy Ridley playing a young Snoke girl who was experimented on by the stormtroopers after her planet was quote unquote liberated. Whew, guys, we're back in the saddle.
Dude. Wow. Wow.
And what a way to do
would
it.
have been the hardest but most rewarding one we've done yet.
I feel like we found some gold in here that is a very different movie than what we got, and dare I say, perhaps works better.
Forgot about Grogu.
Oh man, I also forgot about Grogu.
Grogu was the best idea ever. I'm sorry. I remember when we came up with that, I was like, yes, this is the best. This is where this show should be. Honestly, that was a big one. That was a big one for me.
So making the argument that this was the one where maybe we got back into the swing, not that the other two weren't great, but that this kind of felt like one of the ones where we really started to hit our stride again. Do you feel like we still got the magic, guys?
I got sparkle fingers. I don't know about you guys, but I got those Thor Ragnarok sparkle fingers going on.
No, and one thing I wanted to jump on real quick in there was like the best part to me about the pitch was, again, I'm going to try to show an example of what I said about us making Star Wars more Star Wars. And it is that last part that Bill was saying and explaining the pitch about Yoda as a person who went and hid, and Obi-Wan as a person who went into exile but did not hide from anybody and was very available to the worst kid detective ever in 1975 and was able to be found really easily and drawn into this adventure to eventually topple the evil power in the galaxy. It's beautiful, man. It's beautiful that we motivated that. We made it not, for lack of a better word, dumb or weird that, Ben was so available on Tatooine and stuff like that. We made it so, we made that part so interesting, I think.
I also
I thought that was a good.
Well, I was going to say, building off of that, we did the thing that I guess George Lucas did in a deleted scene in the original episode 3, which was we sort of showed the seeds of the rebellion. We kind of showed where it started, and we gave Padme way more agency by making her the start of the rebellion, as opposed to just having a single scene where she goes, "We must never speak of this again," and then it doesn't affect the rest of the movie, And so I just think that, like, yes, we had Andor on the brain, and Andor is infecting all of Star Wars now, as it rightly should. But that idea that, like, the rebellion didn't just spring fully formed, 5-10 years after the events of Revenge of the Sith. Like, it had to start somewhere, and it actually went through a bunch of losses before we get to the point where A New Hope could happen. That's actualized in this pitch, which, I think is another part of what makes it more Star Wars than what the original was.
What's interesting is, since we're talking about how there is part of what we love to do with Star Wars is improve upon stuff that was maybe made that we didn't like as much or whatever. I'm just going to put it out there that maybe at some point we should think about redoing the Obi-Wan TV series.
I mean, I feel like we'll get to a lot of Star Wars things, by the time that we hang it up for good.
I just thinking about, like, because we set up this scenario where Obi-Wan is not a coward and he wants to be part of the thing. Well, now we have the option to turn a TV show into something like that. Not that we would necessarily do that, but I'm just saying it just sparked interest in my brain for that.
But I think the thing about our pitch though is, like, Obi-Wan still works as is, because we're picking up at this point in the story where he maybe has lost faith even in his own ideals of, like, we shouldn't hide. We can catch up to him in the series as it works now, and him being like, maybe this was the wrong choice, and or whatever. But I do think the one thing, it's like I never obviously had a problem with the way the fight went down with Anakin and Obi-Wan, but the one like change that we made that I just feel like thematically fits so much better was the gradual decay of Anakin Skywalker, as opposed to, you know, just like, even now, like the weirdest thing to me is like I still don't understand how Obi-Wan went like this and got like 2 arms and 1 leg, or 2 legs and 1. I don't know. It was like, how is that
He's
possible?
very fast. Okay, He's very, that was two strikes.
He must
and
have
was
done
very
like
fast.
a Zorro type of Z when he did it to like do it.
Don't
You
get
know?
me started on the Mary Sue nature of Obi-Wan Kenobi as a youth. It is ridiculous. I mean, he didn't have the high ground against Darth Maul, who was taking on him and his master, and he just does a dipsy do dunkaroo over him and kills. Get out of here. This dude is rolling 20s on luck all the time, and it's just ridiculous.
But I feel like we made the dark side more powerful for what's to come too, by and again, like I didn't mean to do this, but I feel like I kept beating the drum of like, let's make Rise of Skywalker better, which is to show that the more you use the dark side, the less a human body can hold it, which is Palpatine's problem in Rise of Skywalker. But I love that we bring it back here to really show the effects of like, yes, the dark side is stronger, but you do pay a price if you use it, and Anakin just doesn't care. So I don't remember how that came about, but to me it's like that was the best change that we made, and honestly, like they should go back and do a special edition and add that in.
Well, and I like that we went, how slow we turn him to the dark side, and it, because like
It's
like,
not a
one
moment.
of the things. It's not, yeah,
Right.
exactly. It's not 1 or 2 moments where it's like, okay, well now this guy's evil. It's like each small step led to being more evil each time, and people who I would view as evil genuinely probably started out in some realm trying to help people sometimes, or trying to do the right thing, or what they thought was the right thing, and they were like, well, I'm going to need a little more power to do the right thing that I want to do, so I better hedge this corner. And then each corner you hedge, all of a sudden there's no corners, and it's just a hole of doom that you have chosen to be in.
Appropriate.
But even
And-
then, we made his choice, and I get where George was coming from, and I'm not even saying that this was wrong. George always has intention, is like, well, he's greedy, he can't let go because it's going to hurt himself too much, and that's a fine, valid take. But what I liked about ours was that it was more like the Captain America, Iron Man, Civil War, where it's like, in some respects, like Anakin's not wrong. Like, is going after people who have slaves wrong? Like, how could you say liberating these people in slavery is wrong? So, like, I do think that the way, like, you know, his mission, like you said, it's more nuanced, it's more gradual, and I feel like that's why it works, and that's what makes the tragedy. It's not like, oh, I feel so bad for him because he had a little tantrum meltdown. It's like, no, I feel bad for him because he was doing something that should be done, and look at this toll that it took on everything, you know?
I also think in a way that makes Palpatine even more insidious, because I think that one of the, again, wordplay, but anyway, one of the things that I hated about the original Revenge of the Sith was like, he's gonna tell him the story of Darth Plagueis the Wise, and that's what he's hinging this whole thing on. Like, this dude is gonna be so impressed by the story of Darth Plagueis the Wise, he's gonna become my apprentice. And like, that sounds like a joke, but it's not. Like, that's what the movie hinges on. And I just think that this idea that Palpatine saw, oh, this guy's full of righteous anger, and he's willing to go out and kill people for what he thinks is a better galaxy, right? And he's like,
yeah, he's already using passion. Can I get him? Can I nudge him?
Right. Let me just facilitate those feelings, and let me just keep pushing him down that path. And then also, let me just go ahead and slip into all these power vacuums that he's creating when he's doing the quote unquote right. I mean, it's not even quote unquote. He's doing the right thing, but Palpatine's just there waiting, like, great, you did the right thing. Let me come right in here. Oh, you did the right thing over there. I'm going to come right in over there too. Which I again, it's like it does so much to make the world building of Star Wars convincing, right? Like in one fell swoop, you're getting rid of anybody with power that may challenge Palpatine. You're putting over Anakin like a boss because he's now murdering his way through, native warrior tribes and elite guards all across the galaxy. And you're just showing that like the people are the ones that are caught under the heel of all these like giant power battles. And using the Zaslav thing, right? You see the original version of Daisy Ridley's Rey. She's just a person who's being experimented on in some crazy cloning factory because that's what they do when Palpatine slips right in off of Anakin's tails. And it's like I just love it's not even moral ambiguity, but there's just a moral complexity to it that wasn't there with, I don't want my wife to die. Well, let me tell you about Darth Plagueis. It's so much better. That's all I could say.
Yeah, no, I agree. So also, since we've spent the last, 20 minutes blowing ourselves, why don't we get some comments going for other people to blow us?
Hey, listen, we'll also take comments where you slap us, but we like the blowjob.
Yeah, we're kinky like that. Go ahead, Ron.
All right, so one of our first ones is from Get Shitty. Great name. So we abbreviated this a little bit just to kind of knock out some of the basic points, but it's a really good comment. Check it out when you go back and rewatch this episode. First off, God, I've missed this. Us too. Some things I'd like to pitch in this. The "you can't liberate the slaves" Anakin scene needs to be a prologue, and then the crawl happens after, truly denoting a different type of Star Wars, and because it's so different, ensuring the audience focus and remember the importance of that scene. Padme adds, the Mandalorian chase. Padme adds, excuse me. The Mandalorian chase, she sees Anakin and learns what he's doing, but he doesn't see her. That's great. The shock triggers her labor, so she's escaping Mando's whilst trying not to give birth. That is badass, which he said.
Just like
she
in
decides
Fantastic Four, by the way.
I was just thinking that.
But it's not in space. Anyways, she decides where to hide Luke. Why Tatooine? It's the only place in the galaxy he's afraid of. Ooh, that's great. That's awesome.
Chills.
I'd also add, just to tie into the sequels, the kids are hidden by a smuggler named Maz Kanata. You guys exceeded the assignment. Yeah, it's a great pull. And then the other comment here is, you guys exceeded the assignment. That's a Star Wars I'd watch. And the last time I thought that was, well, the OG rebooted of Star Wars years before that.
Nice.
The Maz Kanata pool was really cool, and again, add it to the tally of like, screw it, let's make Rise of Skywalker the best movie ever by changing Revenge of the Sith, but that was such a cool character of the sequel trilogy, and clearly there was a history there, so to add it in that way would be really cool. Yeah, that Tatooine line was just killer.
Yeah. I don't know if I'm fully on board with the labor while in the middle of the chase, but that definitely seems like a note that a studio exec would love. Like, yes,
yep,
perfect complication.
More drama, complications. Yeah,
that's it.
All right, so let's move to Dracoon. Dracoon says, "Welcome back and glad to have you back. Thank you. This was amazing to listen to. One question and one comment. Question: How long do you think this movie would be? You got a lot in there, and I feel like it might be close to 3 hours. So go ahead. What do you guys think?
Seems right.
Yeah, that seems right.
But I mean, like that's what it should have been. I think everyone walked out of, even me, and I love Revenge of the Sith. it was just like this felt compressed. Like I could have just used a little bit more, a little bit like let's shorten that first act of that movie. Like I get it, the Palpatine Chancellor rescue thing, it's all very fun, but it's like shorten that, but like elongate the timeline of this movie so it doesn't feel like Anakin turned to the dark side in the span of about 4 days.
I also think within doing that, you can then do the thing that Martin Scorsese movies actually do really well, which is you can abut scenes where the character dynamics are completely flip-flopped from scene A to scene B and have that mean something because you know that we're covering a bunch of time. The audience does the work of filling in the gaps. So it's like, we don't need to see when Anakin loses every one of his limbs. We could just start with, oh, he's got a scar over his eye. And then the next time you see him after he comes back from adventuring, he's got full-on robotic limbs. It's like you don't have to go step by step by step, because leaving some of that to the imagination actually makes it a more rewarding experience.
Yeah, and one line in the Jedi Council meeting where they're like, we've lost Plo Koon, we've lost, and it's like they start listing off Jedis who have mysteriously died on planets they were protecting or whatever. And then
I'd give it 2 hours 37 minutes. That's my estimate.
I like the exacting. I would put it around that as well. I think we could do it in 2.5.
I'm going 250. 2 hours
Ooh.
50 minutes. Yeah.
Ding ding.
I'll get those 13 minutes in the edit. I'll get them.
I'll get 'em.
All right, and then the rest of it, the comment, as Ron points out, at one point, some of the Jedi have to survive, be it children or whatever, as in canon. After this, a lot of Jedi were killed. Yes, but a lot of Jedi managed to survive for various reasons. I don't think it would change this awesome pitch in any way, just something that would need to be kept in mind if it were actually made, I guess. Again, amazing show. Great to have you back, and looking forward to more.
I don't think it would be any different than what is there now, which is a majority of the Jedi were taken out, and there's a handful on certain missions or worlds that were able to get by. I don't think every Jedi that was alive was in the temple when the Kyber nuke bomb went off, but enough that the Jedi Order is not coming back at full capacity.
Yeah,
I mean, we could just do a retcon right now, like they had the Jedi Council had called people back and plans to take a more aggressive action on Palpatine.
But I mean, or it would just be a fake transmission, like Anakin or Palpatine somehow hack the system and put a fake transmission for everyone to come back, and not everyone's going to make it back.
Fix.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
But still, great comment, and we are great, and we're looking forward to doing more. You're correct,
and we're glad you think so.
Like 100% glad, and also tell all your friends. So let's get to Zion, the Dawn 7745. Tell us later what the 7745 is, or maybe it's just a number that's necessary because there's other Zion the Dawn. Anyways. Billy was completely justified in demanding a reason for Mace being so adversarial to Anakin, but there is a canonical reason for it. Mace has the Shatterpoint perception ability, and it just isn't shown in the films at all.
Is that cartoon stuff?
No, I didn't read it. It was like
a novel.
I didn't read a lot of the old like legend stuff. Either way, like Mace is just such a jerk to Anakin from like the minute he's an 8-year-old kid, and the first time he just shows up there, Mace is giving him the stink face. He's done nothing to him, and every single meeting that every time we see Anakin with Mace is just going out of his way to be like, I don't want you here. And I just, I personally wanted a reason why. I know, Ed, you made kind of the impassioned argument of like kind of like jealousy or just like I don't like that this kid is skipping the line, and like I don't know. I don't love that. I would have loved to have found something more for that, but also it wasn't a hill I was going to die on. So it is what it
Well,
is.
and
I just, you know,
just for
I
information
also think,
point.
yeah,
Oh, go
well,
ahead.
you guys also too were just like, oh, if we do anything changing Mace, the fans are gonna just blah. And I'm just like, what show is this? Who gives a shit what the fans think? Like, I want to do what we want to do. I think had we done this pitch like 3 months later and we were 10 episodes in, you maybe would have been more malleable about like changing a beloved character. But I get, again, not a hill I die on, but I just wanted a canonical reason why Mace Windu is such a prickly dick. That's all.
Yeah, the Shatterpoint thing, by the way, is he can see weaknesses. I don't think he can see necessarily like evil. So I don't know if that would work for Shatterpoint, because Shatterpoint is like, you're like, oh, he's got this is his weakness in a fight. I can exploit that. That's like what Mace can do.
Yeah, but I mean, that's like, so Warren Ellis wrote a series about Karnak, the Inhuman, over at Marvel. And Karnak has the exact same thing as his power, but Warren Ellis essentially extrapolated that to mean that like he sees every possibility. He's essentially sort of like the Kwisatz Haderach in Dune, right? Like he could see every possible outcome of something, and he knows, where things will fail. And I could see that being applied to Mace Windu, but I would also say that's not how canon works. If it's not in the movie, it doesn't count. Sort of like, I don't know if the DCU Superman has super hearing because it wasn't in the movie. In fact, it seems like maybe he doesn't, and I'm okay with that. Like, of course, there's 80 years of continuity telling you that Superman does have super hearing, but it wasn't in the movie. So you can't just assume that. And I know that, like, the books are part of the story and yada yada, but like practically that's not how it works. If it's not in the movie, it doesn't count.
Well, and in this scenario with Superman, like he would have sussed out Lex's plans a long time ago when he heard him say them out loud to somebody.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well,
Pretty
even
much
now
a
we
done
have
deal
quiet.
at that point.
Even now we have places that have quiet rooms that are like so quiet that you freak out while you're in there. And Lex would have his whole crib like that. But so that I personally, again, I have made it. I'm not going to make a second impassioned speech about it, but like the whole way the Jedi work to me is very much the same way that a lot of fraternal organizations work. And it's a lot of hazing and garbage, and the more pliable you are, the higher you rise. And I think Mace probably coming in being twice as rough edged and basically as powerful as somebody like that stupid kid, and all the ways he had to bend himself to conform himself to be with these space crackers and all this stuff, and then this kid just whizzes in. That's a lot, man. That's all I gotta say about it. That's a lot.
But
I guess motivation for a real human being.
Sure, but the point I wanted to make was like that is. Let's assume that's exactly what his mindset.
It still wasn't dramatized. It still wasn't.
It's never paid off, right? Because his death is not like Anakin doesn't in the movie as it stands. Anakin doesn't take out Mace because he's been a dick to him this whole time. Like even if Mace had been totally nice to him, he still would have done exactly what he would have done. So I was hoping in our movie, it's like, let's pay off, his anger or something. And somehow, even if it was a line that was just like, I've never believed you were the chosen one. And I like look around, I am so tired of people dying because they think you are. And that being what sets Anakin off, like, just pay it off at all, I guess is,
that's a good writing for our pitch, actually. I mean, because like I think once the screenplay was created, as Ron's fond of saying, once a screenplay would be created, we would have to like dramatize that in that sort of way. So yeah.
I would also posit that the thing that we did by separating the final conflict of Palpatine's doing something and Anakin's doing something completely unrelated allows Mace Windu to be kind of short-sighted in the grand scheme of the movie, because as Padme and probably Obi-Wan and some of the other Jedi are really considering, hey, do we need to like stage a coup? Mace Windu is maybe the only council member, or at least the strongest voiced council member, to be like, no, we got to go find whoever this rogue, super powerful agent is that's killing Jedi and killing aristocracy all over, because like that's the real threat. Like, I don't care about this old man playing politics. We don't play politics. That's not who the Jedi are. And so like you can both get his resentment towards Anakin expressed in their final battle, but also have him hoisted by his own petard because the three most powerful Jedi are not around when Palpatine enacts his endgame. So it's like it's sort of a beautiful setup in that way.
Yeah. 100%.
And again, more Star Wars than Star Wars.
Yeah.
Again.
So let's go with another one. We got Poe Bear 11, also great name. Poe Bear says, great episode. I'm so glad you changed his motivation for turning. It makes no sense, and that he's so scared of a childbirth death in a world that has bacta tanks and cybernetic body parts.
It's a fair
100%.
point. It's a fair point. Like, you know, I won't say it again, but like, I do think that the solve was making it a long-term play, not making it based off of one decision, but a whole campaign, years of decisions that ultimately gets them to be at a place where this is going to fall apart.
And also, just really quickly, the whole thing about his him being, you know, he wanted to have a life and they stopped him from doing it, and how quote unquote secret or unsecret it was in the movies. I feel like us dramatizing that even more in this movie of like his relationship drove him away from the Jedi. He tried to establish a house and a home, but he was torn away from his home to do all this terrible crap that got him all messed up. And she is fighting the good fight behind his back and all that stuff. Ugh, that's Star Wars, baby. That's
plus
like
there's got to be
intrigue.
there's got to be resentment too, in the sense of, just like you said, Ed, where it's like, I finally am free from them. I'm going to build this home, but he has to go out and do this mission that he's like, you guys should be doing this. This is what you should be doing, not me, you know? And I think that, again, it's like, it's so rich and so beautiful that, yeah, they showed Revenge of the Sith in theaters for like a week for the anniversary, and I went and I came out of it and I texted you guys like, man, I was missing a lot of elements from our pitch in this movie that I wish was in there. And that's what I was missing, was just like, I don't want to watch the worst week of Anakin Skywalker's life. I want to watch 10 years of it all coming to a head, you know?
Yep. Agreed. So let's hit this last one. We got Jay Grayson, 1940. This was great. We agree. Loved the angle, making the war more nuanced and marking the slow uptick into fascism. Shame not to see Ahsoka make an appearance. She could easily fit in as a toyetic Poochie inclusion.
Dude, can I just say real quick, one of the best comments of all time, period. Like it's we don't have a Mount Rushmore, there's too many comments, but if Mount Rushmore had like 27 faces on it, that thing would be on there, in my personal opinion. It's great. It acknowledges the canon and the language of the show. It's cool. It's short. Just mi piace. Beautiful freaking comment. Gosh, I love that thing. And yes, I felt it later when, like, we could talk about it now. I don't know what we were thinking, not putting Ahsoka in there at all. But
we just forgot. We talked about her at the beginning of the episode. We forgot.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to be controversial, but
Sure, hit it, Bill. That's what we're here for.
I've never gotten the love for Ahsoka. I don't like this. Like, this isn't even just me saying I don't have it. Clearly, I don't. I don't understand your love, viewer who loves Ahsoka, for Ahsoka. Like, I try, but I don't get it.
The only like regret that I have of not finding a place for her in this was that she, you know, first of all, this is within the canon that is established. We decided that Clone Wars was part of it. but it was like, you know, Padme and Ahsoka were kind of like the two, and his mom were like the three women of his life, right? And he let his mom down. I think there's a part of him that wanted to be, you know, that kind of figure to Ahsoka. He let her down, and then he lets his marriage down. And I feel like maybe if Padme could have trusted, you know, she's talking to the Jedi kind of behind Anakin's back, I think it would have hurt Anakin a lot if he had gone to Ahsoka, and if she was like, "You're the only other person that understands him. I don't know what to do." I just think that would have burned a little bit more of Anakin. It's like, how dare you go to the person, she turned her back on me. She walked out of the Jedi too. She's in the same boat. How come you'll go to her, but I'm the bad guy here? Like, I think we could have incorporated that. It probably would have added another plot, which we didn't have time for in this. But I do think that there's some cool irony there of just Anakin being like, we're the same person. Why are you confiding in Ahsoka when she did the same thing I did? Like, she doesn't believe in the Jedi either, you know?
And meanwhile, Ahsoka is like getting smarter and like doing small jobs to help, you know, people in trouble, which is not the same thing as going and overthrowing governments and murking people. Still, for a good reason that we can all agree is a good reason, but also like that do you do it that way type of like line that he's walking the entire time. So
Right.
yeah.
I mean, like the Clone Wars and subsequent shows told a pretty complete story about Ahsoka. So it's like,
Yeah.
is there? Of course, I'm sure there's room to add to it, but like, let that's sort of the point of the Clone Wars. By the end of it, is to tell her story. So, you know, does she need a second ending in this movie? I don't know.
Yeah, not necessarily.
Yeah,
I don't think so.
it could almost be Black Widow-esque while we're just like trying to jam like an extra adventure in there. We should have gave her a movie or something a while ago, and then we kind of just throw her in as an addendum into some other. I don't know. Maybe they're not quite the same thing, but you understand what I'm saying. Like, it might be too. For me, I feel very much like Bill, honestly, about the Ahsoka thing. I really do. I wish in the cartoon they had to give her some big messed up scar or something, or like her character design would have some weird scar in a later edition, so we could be like, yeah, she got it in the final Jedi fight. She showed up and tried to help Yoda and got her ass whooped or something. I would be down with that, you know, like the person you trained showing up with all the boys to try to stop you in some bravery thing, and then you get your ass beat and lose your faith and stuff and go off and not. Yeah, all that stuff would be great. That's fine.
Okay.
I would almost want it the other way around, and maybe fans of Ahsoka would not like this, but it's like, I guess I want, if you're gonna put Ahsoka in there, I would want that Godfather 3 moment for Anakin, where he just has this moment thinking back to all the women in his life, right? You know, that kind of montage before we see Michael die as an old man, where he sees, you know, Apollonia and Kay, where it's just like, if he sees kind of like his mom and Ahsoka and Padme and all these people that he's let down before the helmet comes on, and it's like, and he's gone now. But that's not really satisfying for the character of Ahsoka, because she's basically just there to push Anakin's story forward. So honestly, it probably would have been the first thing cut out of this movie. You know, Bill, you said you'd find 13 minutes. There it is. You know,
There it is.
So I just want to say, look, an overwhelming majority of the comments we got were like super loving and welcoming, and just you guys were happy that we're back, and we truly and genuinely love and appreciate every single one of you. I joke about trying to promote this more and asking you guys to subscribe and push the bell and tell your friends and all that stuff, but you already do it by leaving comments and like you know, talking to us about this stuff, because you love it as much as we love it. And starting genuine conversations like this is kind of halfway why we did this. Yeah, sure, we wanted to tell some stories and all that stuff, but we wanted to create a community of people who like love story more than anything. And I feel like with you guys leaving these comments, it really pushes that. It lets us know that that's what we're creating. And so I just want to say that I truly appreciate that.
Yeah.
I,
Well said,
I
brother.
just wanted to get internet rich, so that's why I did this.
Well, and so just as an added reminder,
Still working on that
please
one.
share to your friends. We're the fucking best. The best. We're entertaining. We're goofy. We're funny. We tell good stories. We get this stuff going for you, and you know you enjoy these conversations. So share it with all your friends. And that's it. All right. That does it for our
Wrap it
Reboot
up.
Rewind. Yeah, wrap it up, people. That was the Reboot Rewind, all right? On behalf of myself, Ed Greer, producer Bill, and Billy Business, we want to thank you for watching and being part of this really special community we built here. Next week, we're rewinding one of the weirdest, craziest, and funniest episodes we have ever done. So we'll see you next week.